99% of Shopify stores ignore the one thing that actually makes people buy. While most people focus on better buttons, better checkouts, or flashy discounts, they ignore the number one most important thing: psychology. In this video, I'll break down the 5 most important psychological triggers you need to be aware of and explain how you can implement them on your Shopify store for a higher conversion rate. Over 14,000 Shopify brands use my software company to either build or improve their Shopify store. And I've seen firsthand what works and what doesn't when it comes to capturing people's attention and increasing your conversion rate. So let's get started. The first psychological trigger is the von Restorff effect. And the von Restorff effect states that people are more likely to remember something that visually or conceptually stands out from its surroundings. And why is this important? Well, if your brand sounds just like every other competitor, visitors won't remember you. And while this may sound obvious to many of you, if you truly take an honest look at maybe your own brand or at other brands you know within a different vertical within the e-com industry, you will see that all of the brands look the same and no one is unique or tries to stand out. And in my experience, it's either that people don't dare to do it or they don't know how to do it. And with the part on how to do it, I hope I can help. So how can you actually do this? Well, the number one most impactful thing you can do is really think about what's the one thing your competitors can't say. So is there something that you can claim? Is there something about the ingredient within your product, the way you manufacture your product, or your story that is truly unique and that your competitors can't say? So instead of saying we sell the best quality t-shirts, try to figure something out that really makes you unique. And maybe it's t-shirts that resist stains, sweat, and shrinkage, guaranteed for 365 days. This is just an example, but you really need to think about a thing that you can claim and competitors can't say. And then it's also important that the visuals, your brand, your design really helps with the unique and bold claim. So you might want to use contrasting colors, bold typography, or an unusual layout just to differentiate yourself visually. Now let's take a look at 2 brands. Here we have Evian, a well-established player within the water industry, and then we have Liquid Death. And Evian does what all the other water brands also do. They look and feel the same. They have a vague claim about the quality of the water the way nature intended, and then they have an image of a mountain and their water bottle. Then on the other hand, we have Liquid Death, the fastest growing water brand. And what they do is they try to stand out. So what's the one thing that they can claim that makes them unique? That is their water bottle, or I should say their water can. When people see their water can, people think it's beer. So they really focus on that unique part of their brand. And now they say, start drinking on the job. And this is both funny and it's unique. And with the imagery, they really support and go to the extreme to stand out and make something that people will remember. So Liquid Death is just a perfect example on the von Restorff effect and how you can and should implement it on your Shopify store. So now let's go to the second psychological trigger we need to be aware of. And this is cognitive fluency. And cognitive fluency refers to how easily our brains process information. And the easier something is to understand, the more we trust it, engage with it, and take action on it. And obviously this sounds very, very important, but let's get into the specifics. Visitors judge whether to stay or leave your store within 50 milliseconds. That's less than the blink of an eye. And if your message is unclear, people will instantly leave. We don't live in a world where people spend time and energy to try to figure out what you do. It's our job to make it as easy as possible and to make sure that people don't have to think when they land on our store or check out our products. And a simple and easy to read value proposition increases trust and conversion. So what can you do with this information? How can you implement this on your store? Well, the number one most important thing you can do is write a 5-second value proposition. And a 5-second value proposition answers what do you sell, why is it different, and why should the consumer care? And with this value proposition, it's really important that there's no fluff. It leads with clarity. You don't try to sound too smart, and you use simple and benefit-driven language. So let's take a look at these two examples from the Aura Ring. And while you might know the Aura Ring, the example on the left is just really bad. Get all wrapped up in your health. Self-care is now in season. Aura Ring 4 is the perfect gift to show yourself some love. If you read this, you have no idea what they do and why you should care. Maybe in this case, it's a big brand and you know the Aura Ring, but if it weren't the case, you would leave this site immediately. And then on the right, we have the perfect implementation of the 5-second value proposition. The smart ring for better health, sleep, activity, and recovery insights right on your finger. And right on your finger also speaks to the first psychological trigger: focus on something only you can say. So why this example on the right works is that there's no guessing needed. Visitors will immediately understand what the Aura Ring does. It's the smart ring for better health, and it's easy to process what they do. It's sleep, activity, and recovery insights right from your finger, and there are minimal distractions. So your eye is drawn towards this header, you see the image, and the next thing you see is the CTA. So this really shows the perfect way to apply the cognitive fluency effect. Now let's go to the third psychological trigger, which is the mere exposure effect. And what the mere exposure effect says is that the more people see something, the more they start to like and trust it, even if they don't consciously realize it. And this is why brands that show up repeatedly feel more credible than unknown brands. And why is this important? Well, if a visitor lands on your store and they don't feel a sense of familiarity or trust, they're more likely to bounce. And where we see this happen the most is when a potential customer sees an ad with a certain aesthetic and then they land on the landing page and it's completely different. Different typography, different messaging, different look and feel. And when this happens, you lose the customer 100% guaranteed. So people prefer brands they've seen before, whether through ads, content, or social proof. And the very, very important part right here is that you use consistent branding across your website, ads, and on social media. The more people recognize your designs, your fonts, your colors, your messaging, the more trustworthy you appear. So really show social proof early, display logos of well-known brands or people you've worked with, and have testimonials near the top of your page. Then there's something most of you probably know, and that is run retargeting ads. So if someone visits your site but they don't buy, make sure they see ads later on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever, until they feel familiar enough to convert. So here we have a perfect example, which is Glossier, and they have their unique branding, this pinkish vibe they have going on, and it's consistent everywhere. Whether you see an ad like this and then land on a landing page, it all looks and feels the same, and they even translate this to their physical locations with their stores. Wherever you interact with this brand, it looks and it feels familiar, and thus people are more likely to trust this brand and convert. Now let's go to psychological trigger number 4, which is the curse of knowledge. And the curse of knowledge says that experts tend to assume that customers know what you know. So as a founder, you're in the trenches, you're deep in your industry, you know all the specifics, and sometimes you start to assume that what you know, your customer knows. But this is almost never the case. And if you do this, it leads to overly complex and technical and jargon heavy messaging. So why is this important? Well, if your messaging is too complicated, people won't take the time to figure it out and they'll just leave. And clarity builds trust. If people understand your value instantly, they also feel more confident in purchasing from your brand. So how can you avoid the curse of knowledge? Well, with the power of all the AI tools, we can do this relatively simple. You need to write at the 5th grade reading level. If an 11-year-old can't understand your product description, you need to simplify it. So whatever text you have, whether it's on ads, on your homepage, on landing pages, put it with inside ChatGPT or Claude or any other AI tool and ask the AI to write at the 5th grade reading level. and this will simplify all of your text. Then it's also important to show and not tell too much. People don't like to read, so use images and videos to quickly explain product benefits and trim unnecessary words. So let me show you a brand that overcame the curse of knowledge, which is 8 Sleep. In the beginning, 8 Sleep really focused on technical features, and now they really try to speak their customers' language. So why does this work way better? Well, people care about better sleep. They don't care about tech specs. So 8 Sleep now speaks their customers' language instead of sounding overly scientific and smart. So before, they led with messaging like sleep tracking with HRV latency, AI-powered dynamic cooling, etc., etc. This sounds smart or in some weird way interesting, but no one really understands it. And now they lead with clear messaging, and this just works way better because people really understand the benefit of this product. Now let's go to the last psychological trigger, which is loss aversion. And with loss aversion, we refer to the fact that people fear losing something more than they desire gaining something. And this is why, for example, limited time offers work so well. If a visitor doesn't feel any urgent reason to buy, if there's no urgency, they will delay their decision, which can also result in no decision at all. And making potential loss feel personal increases the motivation to take action as well. So how can you implement this? Well, reframe your discounts as potential loss. Instead of saying get 10% off, you should say don't miss 10% off, or even more extreme, don't miss 10% off, it expires at midnight. What you could also do is highlight what people will miss out on. So instead of saying order now, you could say if you leave now, you could be missing out on the most comfortable t-shirt you'll ever wear. And use countdown timers and real-time stock alerts. All in all, what you have to do is really focus on the fact that people hate losing opportunities more than they love gaining something. Huckberry is a perfect example of a brand that implements the loss aversion principles to drive sales. So under PDPs, they have a live stock alert, and when a product is low in stock, they show it right here. And in this case, there are only 2 left in stock, and in a subtle way, they create urgency. And urgency pushes hesitant buyers to take action. And if people think they can buy something later, whether they're hesitant, loyal, or not, they can also decide to not do it. And you don't want that to happen. You want people, when they land on your site, to feel the excitement, but also the urgency to buy something from you. And this is just one of the many ways that you can do it. And that's it for this video. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you found this video valuable and you learned something new. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.